plus, as you know, my personal story and with education. So that really hit home for me. And so something different. And then it was a question of which one. There are many so-called alternative systems to the traditional system. Which one? And I like to, base myself on evidence and science and facts because I wanted to make sure that I understood why things were recommended, not just this is better because somebody said so, but why. And I wanted to understand why. So, I went quite deep into that space. I mean, deep as in reading 60-page research studies on students that went through different systems and how they developed after one academic cycle on 5 or 6 developmental areas, numeracy, literacy, problem-solving skills, etc. And it became quite clear, there were a few systems that stood out. Montessori was one. Waldorf, sometimes called Steiner, was the other, and then Reggio Emilia, and some sort of hybrid, a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of Montessori. These were the things that were most common in this space. And I was doing 2 things at the same time, which was looking at these systems and then looking at our school and trying to see, how do they fit and which one and where do we go and where are we today. And Montessori just stood out as the most complete system. It had the whole psychological angle, so the respect for the psychology of the child, the inner human being, but at the same time, which was quite common amongst alternative systems, that's really the main thing they're typically trying to solve for, which is students aren't happy, so let's give them more freedom. Let's tailor make it to what students need. But what also stood out with Montessori amongst the alternative systems was that the math and science, program was so strong. It was so embedded, and the way it's taught, it was so beautiful. So that really appealed to me. That the evidence was very strong, the system was complete, and then you start getting, observations. You start noticing that the Google founders went to Montessori. That's interesting. And then how they speak about their famed offices, which where when I was in the world of employment in a multinational, it was the reference. The Google office. Google employees are so happy. Look at their office culture, and then you find out that they designed that culture. It was inspired by the classroom that they went to, the Montessori classroom they went to when they were young, right? So you get and that's something I love to do, which is putting together all these seemingly different data points into a hypothesis, checking it, changing it until I get something that seems solid. And the last step was it felt just very natural. And an interesting fact about the Montessori method, the lady who pioneered it did not want to call it the Montessori method. She said, please don't call it that. I'm just a scientific observer, observing kids and giving them what they need to fulfill their potential. So this should be called, I think she had a fancy name for it, the scientific natural method or something like that, which never caught on, and everybody wanted to call it Montessori. So we like to call it, the natural system. What would you and I and a bunch of people, if we got together and said, we've got these kids, should we do it this way or that way or this way or that way? And if we would probably end up on agreeing, if we agreed on the principles to best prepare them, to have happy students, to fulfill their potential, what would be the most natural system that we would agree on? And this is how we speak to parents and say, how would you teach math if that's what you wanted? Would you do it this way or this other way that seems so much more fun, more natural, more logical, etc.? So basically that stood out And then the really nice thing was, because my mom is a real educator, she's not sitting there trying to teach to a test or to please, or to adjust for this traditional system that goes through its various trends. Many schools, private schools today, have these entrance exams. So can a child write their name at age 4 or 5? And that's some sort of that's somehow some sort of achievement, which you can get a child to memorize the shape of their names without really learning the alphabet. So it's meaningless. Or can they count to 10 or 20? Or do they cry if you put them in a room? And that's some sort of, if you brought them in with a bunch of strangers and they started crying, that's some sort of sign that there's something wrong with the kid. And these are all, my mom considered these things just nonsense. We are preparing children for life. We're infusing them with a passion for learning. And we're doing things in the most natural way possible, both in terms of how we build the campus, access to animals, to nature, to real objects, and also what we do in the classroom. So I found a lot of similarities with the system, and we started speaking about that. And we eventually adopted it and transitioned. And